Hey, welcome to another episode of GeekOutdoors.com. So the Fable is a 2019 action comedy Japanese film that is now available on Netflix. And after watching it, well, I've got a lot to say about this movie. And so the general story is we have this elite mythical contract killer who's known as the Fable. And his boss tells him and his partner Yoko to actually spend a whole year being ordinary people, living ordinary lives, and he's going to have a new name called Akira Sato. And so basically for the whole year they are supposed to live an ordinary life, and the one thing that is very, very important, the biggest rule, is that there is no killing for the whole year. Otherwise their boss, who is also an elite contract killer, will kill them. And so that is the general plot. And whenever they go to this town of Osaka, they actually play brother and sister. So that's kind of like their cover. And once they get to that town, Akira Sato, he meets other people there. Specifically, he gets a job. And in there, he meets other people, and specifically Masaki. And so she's basically going to be his main person. Other than Yoko and everybody else, that's really centered around the story. So that's kind of like the overall story. But then in that mix we have mafia there, because all of this is gang related. And then we have a mob boss, other people, and many other characters. And the crazy thing here is that Akira and Yoko cannot kill anybody, especially for Akira, because that's what he does, and he does it very well. And that's where the whole hilarity, the story, just everything comes about in this really odd situation. So let's start off with the things that this movie does so well, and that's the action and comedy part. Because the action in this movie, in my opinion, is just absolutely spectacular. If you think about something like John Wick with all the gun action, I would say just take that and bring it to another level at a very high and fast rate. Because the gun action here, it's plentiful, it's really quick, but at the same time you can still see what's going on, and it's actually beautiful, especially when Akira is just mowing down people with his gun action, and he can't kill anybody, but as you see the movie, he finds very creative ways to do this. And even the hand-to-hand combat action, it's just all done very well. There's many action scenes in this movie throughout, and I really enjoyed the action. And second to that is the comedy. Now, the comedy here was really good. I was surprised, how good the comedy was, especially with Akira, because he is basically somebody who really doesn't know about the world, and you see why he doesn't. And so it's really funny to see him as basically a fish out of water in the normal world, trying to be an ordinary person. And there's so many scenes in this movie where he plays this out, and it's just hilarious, and you see another character named Jackal, and it's just funny. It all goes together. And the funny thing is, the comedy and the action, they go hand in hand. And so I would say that's like the first and best thing about this movie, is that the action and comedy is done so well. And then the next thing that I was thoroughly and pleasantly surprised with is the actual story itself. Even though the general story is simple, the way in which it was told, and the way in which the character especially were developed, each one of these characters, even the really side characters, they're not just simple characters. There's like different dimensions to them, different sides to them. Like, for example, all the good and quote-unquote bad guys, they're not all good and they're not all bad. And as you're watching this, you even sympathize with the bad guys, even though they're doing absolutely horrible things. And even the ones who are the good people, they've not done great things as well. Just like the main characters, they are contract killers. Just think about that. And Akira has killed hundreds of people. And all of those things together make this entire movie so interesting. There was never a moment that I was bored. I was laughing. I was getting excited over the action. I was rooting for the characters. And then when the characters were doing horrible things, I was hating them. So it really covers all the various emotions you could think of, but it's done so well. And then to go along with that is actually the acting for these characters. And even though the characters are ridiculous, they're absolutely perfect for this ridiculous world, and there was never a point where the characters and the story took me out of the movie. If anything, it just made me want to watch every single second and appreciate, how well this movie was done. And so the final big thing that this movie gets so right is that it's a fun movie. From the beginning to the end, every single second of this movie was an absolute blast. I love the story, the characters, the action, the comedy, the world building, the mystery. There's still a lot left that you don't know. It was just a really good time. And since I enjoyed the action and comedy so much, as I stated earlier, I could come back to this and watch it over and over and still get some good laughs out of it. And at the same time, since the characters are so interesting and likable, you just grow to love them, and that's something that's really hard to do, especially in an action comedy. And so, as you could probably tell, I absolutely love this movie. But what are the negatives? If you love reading books, then check out Audible, which has the largest selection of audiobooks anywhere on the internet. Sign up today and get a 30-day free trial. For more information, check out the affiliate link in the description area below. Now, when it comes to any potential cons with this movie, at least for me, I really can't see anything with this movie, but it's really the movie that follows this. There's actually a sequel called The Fable, The Killer Who Doesn't Kill, and I did watch that movie. And so that's the only thing that really came to my mind is the second movie going to be even close to this first one? And that is something that I will answer on my follow-up review with the sequel to this movie. But other than that, The Fable is just a surprisingly awesome action comedy. I loved everything about this movie. It was such a good time. And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend that you do check out The Fable. And once again, look forward to another review where I talk about the sequel, and we'll see whether or not The Fable Part 2 is anywhere near the mythical Fable Part 1. So if you actually had any thoughts about this, leave that in the comments area below. And if you did want to see more of my action film reviews, I do have an entire playlist. I'll leave that in the description area as well. So as always, if you did get value out of these videos, be sure to share, like, and subscribe. And if you're a creative geek like me and you want to get exclusive access to more content that I don't put out here publicly on my YouTube channel, then join my Gold Content Creators group, where you're going to get content like this and more for all the creative geeks out there. And the best part is, all of this is free. Simply head over to the link below, check out my page, and sign up for my Gold Content Creators group.